Hello and welcome to A Star to Steer Her By, the podcast about Star Trek that you've been listening to for 192 episodes now.
Woo!
Welcome back. I'm sure you're sick of us by now. As usual, you'll remember I am Ames.
You may recall, as is normal, that I am Caitlin.
I hope you've forgotten that I am Jake.
I don't know where I am, but this is Chris.
Let me tell you where you are, Chris. Deep Space Nine. Easiest answer. We're here on Deep Space Nine, and it is Live Fast and Die Young week. 2 episodes about people who fucking die at like 15. Because we are covering 2 episodes. We are covering To the Death and The Quickening. Let's talk about To the Death. So into the Death, Deep Space Nine has just been attacked by some rogue Jem'Hadar, so we all pile in the Defiant to go on a field trip. We gotta go find these guys because they blew up our ship. We come upon another Jem'Hadar ship that has been kerploded, so we save any of the crew that's been, lingering around, and we learn a whole bunch of exposition from our new best friend, the Vorda Weyoun, who's another iteration of Jeffrey Combs and is so delightful. So Weyoun tells us that the ship of rogue Jem'Hadar that's been flying around doing shit that they're not cool with, they could be after the Iconian Gateway.
Bum, bum, bum.
We remember that from Contagion. It's a callback. Everyone do the callback dance. So we all have to team up with the Jem'Hadar to stop them. And teaming up with the Jem'Hadar is rough because they're fucking assholes. So as we're flying along, we have a whole bunch of little mini character scenes between various characters, because I guess they had to save all the budget for the giant battle at the end of the episode, so they did all these little character scenes in the meantime whilst we're flying. The little character moments included Sisko butting heads with Ometiclan, the Jem'Hadar first, Worf butting heads with Tomantarax, the Jem'Hadar second, who gets his neck fucking snapped by the first for being a dick. Dax had a nice moment with Virik Kara, who was a Jem'Hadar assigned to her little battalion, from whom we learned that Jem'Hadar tend to live to like 10, and their oldest ones reach 20. They don't eat, sleep, or fuck, and they're all dudes. So the Jem'Hadar is one giant sausage fest. We also have... Yeah?
Is there sausage? We don't know.
Yeah, I
a
mean,
good
they're
question.
probably just like
They're probably
completely
Ken dolls.
null,
Yeah. They're born in a vat.
They're like Santarans.
I think Jadzia was bummed out by it, because I think she might have been DTF.
Boys! We also have a really nice scene where Odo has a sass-off with Weyoun, which was really fun for me. I really like that. They talking about how he's a changeling and all this stuff. But we've made it to Vandros 4, where there's the Contagion Iconian Gateway. We're here, and it's high noon, so it's fighting time. And it all has to be done hand-to-hand with weapons, because none of your phasers and shit work here. So, cue very many fight scenes. Lots of fight scenes. I think there was a moment where Sisko saved Ometiclan's life. I couldn't really tell. We'll talk about this, but now they're best buds? Question marks. But in the end, we all win. They destroy the gateway. Ometiclan murders the hell out of Weyoun. Whoops. Weird flex, dude. So let's all get the fuck out of here. Warp Factor fun.
Yeah.
That sums it up.
So the best scene in the entire episode, and possibly one of the greatest scenes we have ever had in all of Trek, was in this episode.
What was it?
Where Sisko and Weyoun were having their little conference, and Sisko was just going full Avery Brooks, and Jeffrey Combs was also overacting.
Oh, he's adorable in this.
And it was amazing. It was just like...
What actually happened in the scene?
No,
Who
it was
cares?
It was the scene where, like, basically Weyoun laid out what the deal was, why he wanted to work together. Come on, let's be buddies. He offers to make him, unquestioned dictator of the Federation if he'll side with him. We find out they have, like, extensive psychographic profiles on people, and Sisko's is required reading at the Jem'Hadar Academy and the Vorta Academy and whatever else.
I know more about you than you do.
But they just, like, it's this wonderful, just vicious cycle of two men trying to out-ham each other.
Yeah, they're great.
And it's a thing of pure beauty.
Yeah, I'm really glad they went with Jeffrey Combs for Wei Yun, because it sounds like they were having trouble figuring out whom to cast as this character. Until they just said, let's just do Jeffrey Combs, even though we're seeing Brunt several times right around this episode. So we like him enough that he's going to do that. And I wrote down that what Jeffrey Combs channeled for this character is half car salesman, half court fop.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Which I like.
And I also
like a lot.
like the Brunt makeup is so heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like the only way you would know it was him is the voice.
Well, and even then, because he's got the teeth in,
Yeah.
like,
True.
it's, even that's fucked up enough that, like, honestly, if you didn't have the opening credits, you probably wouldn't know.
Yeah, Chris even said, oh yeah, that's Jeffrey Combs, and I was like, ... wait, like Brunt? And he was like, yeah, I was like, oh yeah, indistinguishable.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the most he's looked like a person, you know, because the other time he was also under heavy makeup. So.
Yeah, like, it's funny, because again, like, coming to this after a long time, but having watched Enterprise more recently, it's like, yeah, Wei Yun and Shran, because they similarly, their face is largely untouched. You're like, oh, yeah, no, totally the same guy. But Wei Yun and Brunt, you're just like, sure, if you'd say so.
Yeah, and they have very different personalities. And even just watching the way Wei Yun kind of, like, holds himself with his hands behind his back oftentimes.
Yeah.
When there was that kind of quarrel between Worf and Tamantarax, he was cowering in the corner, and I loved it.
I also enjoy how unenthusiastic he is about some of his duties.
Oh,
like
giving
rolling
them
out the white.
Yeah. Eating white.
It's like, I'm trying to eat my scrambled eggs or whatever this is. Like, you know, he's very nonchalant. He's a true believer in the Dominion, but he also kind of doesn't give a fuck.
Well, I think the part of it is that the Jem'Hadar are really shown to be all based on, like, ceremony and, you know, saying prayers and things like that. Their whole existence is very regimented.
Yeah. I am already dead. Follow me to battle.
Yeah. So, like, there's that one, and then there's, like, the little thing that they have to say when they're getting the white.
Yeah.
You know, whereas, like, the Vorta just are not that. You know, they have to participate in it because, you know, they need to keep the Jem'Hadar from murdering them, which clearly is something the Jem'Hadar want to do.
Yeah. But it's funny because, you know, you could totally have gone with, you know, the actor could have gone with deciding, like, Wei Yun still kind of puts on the act for their sake. But I like that he was like, yeah, no, he's just like, oh, here, fuck off, eggs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, you know, it is interesting to see some of the relationship between the Vorta and the Jem'Hadar, just because it is such a different, you know, I guess in theory you would think of, okay, like the Vorta is kind of the captain and the Jem'Hadar are the officers on the ship, but it's such a different dynamic between, you know, what we would see on a normal, like on a Federation ship.
You know what it almost feels like? It's almost like, and maybe this is a stretch, but Aliens, where, like, ostensibly because he represents the company, like, funding the whole expedition, Paul Reiser technically has some say-so, but he really doesn't.
That's true, yeah.
The
I guess
Marines
that's
are
actually
running
pretty
the show.
apt. Yeah, you know, and the you know, the Jem'Hadar are like the Marines,
yeah,
you know, and they just, you know, they will only tolerate Paul Reiser
so far that he's got Paul Reiser's got the money, Wei Yun has the white.
Yep, exactly. That's good.
Yeah, I like that.
So how are Omediclan and his group going to get their white from now on if they've murdered Wei Yun?
He did pick up the white box.
Yeah, well, that's the one box. Where is he going to get the next installment?
Well, presumably they're gonna send a rescue ship or something at some point.
Yeah, it's also unclear. Like, in theory, can it? Like, there must be some sort of way for a Jem'Hadar to access the box, because, like, if you accidentally lose your Vorta, You still got to be able to get to it, but...
Well, but then again, for all we know, if you lose your Vorta, maybe the thing is you blow up the ship, or you just die.
Well, maybe that's their plan, because they stayed on the planet to fight the other Jem'Hadar, so maybe they don't plan to live very long.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, it definitely seems like the Jem'Hadar are disposable, and they know it, and they're okay with it.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, like the Renegade Jem'Hadars, they probably don't have a cache of white that's going to last very long either. Like, they're probably just in it for, let's fuck up as much stuff as we can until we die.
Well, I think
or until
the idea with them was, they'd get the gateway working, and then they would...
Oh, they could steal some white.
They could steal some white. They could get other Jem'Hadar to join them.
It was very handy that the Renegades very politely put on nice vests, so it was easy to tell that they were Renegades.
Oh, was it? I couldn't tell them apart, and I thought they should, like, wear an armband, or, like, everyone, like, paint a dot on their head or something, so you can tell which one is which.
Oh, yeah, no, if you go back, all the Renegades wore this, like, black vest.
Okay, I missed that.
But yeah, Jake, how excited were you about the return of the Iconian Gateway? I know you've got all sorts of fan theories built up about it.
I love the Iconian gateways. I'm really glad that they brought that back, because, it could have just been a one-episode thing.
Yeah.
And that's honestly probably what they thought it was, until they're like, oh, we can use this in the Dominion arc.
Yeah, there's probably more of them around, so yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, because like that is such a powerful weapon. It's a shame though, because I'm sure it won't come up again. It's like they paid lip service to the Iconian gateways by bringing them back for one episode.
Well, it's got to be hard to find. Like the first one that we saw in Contagion, like it was a big deal that they found it.
Yeah.
Well, that was the home world.
Yeah, they found the home world. Like they had to, follow a trail of breadcrumbs to locate the homeworld.
Yeah, so if there are others, which I'm sure there are, but I bet you they're like impossible to find because, all the Iconians are dead.
Well, and they're clearly, they had a galaxy-wide reach because this one was in the Gamma Quadrant.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing also that, they say that they were this galaxy-spanning empire and then they fell, they vanished. And my suspicion would be that, perhaps once they vanished, the planets that had gateways on them, the people on those planets may have just been like, you know what? We're going to destroy this thing.
Smart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, to bring up Stargate again.
Yay!
The Stargate network is similar to the Iconian gateways.
That's a good parallel. I like that.
In that, you can basically go anywhere in the galaxy.
I really gotta watch
And oftentimes,
It's
and there's empires that are using these to like enslave people. So when the humans, the Earth people go to a planet, they're like, listen, we're not the slave people, but listen, if you don't want the slave people to come back, bury the Stargate, just bury it. Because it can't work if it's filled with dirt.
Would it be better to destroy it completely? Or are they really hard to destroy?
They're hard to destroy. They're made out of a material that's very hard to destroy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think you can blow it up with a nuke. Oh, no, that's the other thing. Yeah, if you blow up a Stargate, it, like, blows up with the fury of 1,000 nukes.
Okay, just bury it.
So just bury it. Yeah, they had to put one into space once to, like, avoid getting blowed up.
So that if anybody tries to go through it, they'll just end up in space.
Well, no. Like,
it blew up in space.
Somebody had rigged it to explode.
Oh, they blew it up in space.
And they're like, oh, we can't let this blow up on a planet because it'll destroy half the planet. So put it in space.
Nice. Good
They
time.
threw it into a big slingshot.
And we accidentally blew up, like, I don't know, a minor moon.
Oh, we released General Zod.
Classic. Maybe they'll,
That's a Superman joke, right?
Yes.
Great, I got it.
Maybe it'll get retconned. Maybe the Iconian Gateway will have been attached to the mycelial network this whole time. Show up in Disco at some
there you
point.
go.
I was legit just thinking it would be funny if it showed up in Disco, so it's funny that you say that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they could, explain the gateways by saying that they did use, they were just passages onto the mycelial network. That's not a bad retcon.
Watch it
I don't think
already
they'll
have
do
happened
that.
by the time this goes live.
That would be really funny.
Season 3 will have started by the time this goes up, huh? Wow.
Wait, when does it start? Beginning of October?
Something
October
like that,
15th.
Ooh, Oh my
Jake's
god, I'm
Which is-
so
birthday.
excited.
which is a Thursday,
Well,
so
happy birthday to you, Jake.
this could be the episode that airs. that
I could
day.
look it up, but I'm not going to.
No, I think this one goes up to 20, whatever the
Second.
15 plus 7
Hmm.
is.
Okay, well, man, that episode of Discovery sure was something last week, huh,
Easily.
It
guys?
was. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're talking DS9, and
We
I
are.
read that the whole fight scene, it was so violent and intense that this is the first time in all of Star Trek that they've had to cut a scene for amount of violence.
Wow.
Whoa.
Like originally there were 52 Jem'Hadar deaths on screen,
Jesus
and
Christmas.
they removed 32 of them.
Holy shit.
And of course, in Britain, they cut it even more because the British are so squeamish about everything, evidently.
That's weird.
So yeah,
in Germany, of
apparently-
course, they added them all back in.
I hope
But they were
so.
naked.
Yeah, England is really weird too. They have something against like ninjas. Like when the Ninja Turtles cartoon was initially on, they like changed Michelangelo's nunchakus into something else because they were like very
Just like a grappling hook.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. So they were like very anti-ninja as well.
Well, they
It's
outright
really
changed the
strange.
title of the show to Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
Yeah, that's right.
That has
At least
since
it still parses with the song.
that has since gone away. They can just call it Ninja Turtles now. But yeah,
I like to imagine that they didn't re-record the whole theme song. They just Teenage Mutant
Hero.
but it'll be British. Hero.
Hero.
Turtles. Teenage Mutant Hero.
Hero.
Turtles.
Oh my god.
But yeah, no, they get some weird, especially that. I think again, like I think these days they're more chill. But yeah, in the 80s and 90s they were really weird about stuff.
I blame Thatcher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fuck her.
nothing struck me in the fight scenes as terribly interesting, so maybe we needed to see that extra 45 seconds they cut or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I remember it not being, like, the best fight. And I remember, and as I mentioned in my synopsis, like, I totally missed whatever this thing was where Sisko saved Omediclan.
Yeah, someone
it
went
was
into
right in the gate. It was right in the gate room.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I saw it happen, and because I, had read the synopsis before, I was like, oh, was that the thing they were referring to? Or is there going to be another thing that's very obvious, him doing something? Oh, no, I guess that's it.
Yeah, he
Ugh.
took one of the axes to the arm, I think, or something.
It just
right?
looked like he gave Omediclan a little shove, but since I couldn't tell the Jem'Hadar characters apart, I just didn't know what he was doing.
Oh.
But they did call it out.
Yeah.
Omediclan was like, "You saved me."
Even though I threatened to kill you.
But I got to admit, like, isn't I having not read the synopsis, just watching it fresh, it was just like, I think Sisko jumped in the way. Oh, yes. Thank you for saying so, Omediclan, because I was not positive.
Yeah, it wasn't very overt.
But I also
mean-
think though that like, despite that, I mean that whole fight sequence was very much mid '90s television fight
Yeah.
choreo, where it's like, ah,
Yeah. No, I mean,
ah.
how many times did you say?
Oh yeah, there were like 3 or 4 hits where I was like, that not good. Jadzia got a
dear.
good one in, but a lot of the battle, it was like that punch or whatever was.
Yeah,
100
I liked when they
feet away.
unleashed Odo for like one moment.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I can only
Oh,
imagine it's
yeah.
because they probably ran out of budget, and
Yeah.
because his shape shifting takes so much money and effort.
When he was a tentacle monster.
It was great.
That fucking owned. Well, and I was honestly shocked by it because I didn't realize, like, Worf had been carrying him like a bag. Like, I was just literally thinking, like, oh, Worf looks like a fucking nerd with that, gym bag over his shoulder. And it turned into Odo, and I was like, oh shit, totally worth it.
Nice.
And I was like, oh god, Odo is hentai. What the fuck is going on? And then it was over. But he had a very satisfied look, which made me... Oh, sorry. I just jostled the fucking table. I'm sorry. But yeah, Odo had a very self-satisfied look on his face after he did it, and it was very exciting.
Yay.
Yeah.
Though, again, definitely a case of, like, why did they bring Odo? Like, obviously, it was so he could sass off with
Wayun?
but they didn't know they were going to run into... Like, metatextually, I understand why they brought him, but in universe, there was really no good reason for them to bring him.
Well, maybe he could have... I guess I kind of thought maybe he was there to, like... Because Wayun was like, I'm, like, born to serve you, or whatever. I kind of wondered if he played... Like, they were going to use him to play Founder and
maybe.
get the other
That'd be
Jem'Hadar to
interesting.
back
Yeah.
off
I mean,
or something.
that's the thing. It couldn't hurt to have him along if you're going to be engaging with the Jem'Hadar, just because they aren't going to kill him.
Yeah.
See, I betcha that he just wanted a little more distance between him and Kira, because Kira's been talking about how great Shakar's dick is so much.
God, can you
He's like,
imagine?
no, I'll just come on this away mission. I can't anymore.
Well, no, Sisko actually said, Odo, you're coming.
Yeah.
And Odo was like, I had things to do. Okay. Actually, I think what I said initially was, I have to use the bathroom. All right. Just go. And that led me to being like, wait. Like, I guess I've known that he doesn't eat and drink and shit because we made a big old deal about it. But, like, does he not gain any sustenance in any fucking way ever? Like, does he just live in perfect, what do you call it, homeostasis? Like, he's got nothing?
Where does he get energy from? Because I know he has to revert to goo for, a little while every day. What does he do when he's, like, not resuscitating?
Maybe he feeds on the cosmic microwave background.
Maybe he feeds on any bugs that fall into his goop.
Yes.
He photosynthesizes.
There's no sunlight.
Maybe he's got a lamp above his...
He needs
No,
grow lamps in his room.
I'm picturing Garrick lying on a stone with like one of those heat lamps. He drinks from one of those little pet bottles, Someone throws in some live crickets. That's Garrick, not Odo, but still, I like it. I like it as a visual. What the fuck? I just had another thought as well about Odo. Oh, when he was talking about, like, oh, I love the Jem'Hadar. If I didn't have to turn into sludge every day, think of all the other shit I could get done. And all I could think was, like, yeah, think about how much more moping you could do about Kira with a few extra hours. Poor Odo.
Think about how many more civil rights you could violate.
Fucking Odo.
Oh god, briefly, just since we've sort of circled around the destruction there at DS9, Pylon 3.
Yeah.
That's extensive.
Quark's little freakout.
I loved it. He
Yeah.
cared so much about Rom's safety.
I'm gonna kill him!
And he didn't even, like, try to make an excuse when he found out he was fine, Like, you'd half expect him to go, oh, good, because he still owes me 5 strips of latinum, you see. But he was just like, no, I was worried. And that was it. He was honest.
Perhaps losing him as a poorly paid indentured servant at his bar has made him appreciate him more as a human being.
Yeah, it was a really nice, if unexpected moment.
It was really nice.
Yeah, I liked it.
Also, Quark might need those organs someday, so...
Good point. That's true. If I ever need marrow.
But yeah, man, that, see, that's the thing, like, spoilers for later in this show, but...
God damn it, Jake.
This is the only bit we see of, that was some serious damage to the station, like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the rest of the episodes on the Defiant or on the other planet.
I would think that, this would be a significant thing that they'd be having to deal with, like, repairing it.
Yeah, but they brought O'Brien with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's other people that can piece together.
That's because it's probably in Cole Meany's rider that he has to be in this episode.
It also seemed to me, though, like, they didn't have any time to really plan this mission because they needed to follow the Jem'Hadar Ion Trail. So, yeah, maybe if they had more time to plan it, they would have been like, all right, O'Brien, why don't you stay here and fix the station that, could very well blow up, because I'm sure it's not good for it to have a huge chunk destroyed.
Yeah. And again, it's like it's fixed by next week.
Yeah.
Would have been nice if they'd, like, kind of kept it busted for a little while.
Oh, they produced them in reverse order. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I'm also pretty sure, though, we never see the damaged pylon again.
No, I'm sure we don't.
It's like there's just a few weeks where it's the right shape, but it's not been painted yet, so it's like Starfleet gray.
It's covered in Tyvek.
Yeah.
Oh, they went with the zip system. I see. Oh.
Is it the green one you see around?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's fancy stuff.
It's got one of those signs hanging off the side, like, this job by Vito Scalepi Contractors or something.
I don't get it.
You really think it's an Italian? I could have thought up a better Italian name.
Vito Scalepi.
Hand over your card.
Because so many...
Don Salieri would have been better. Come on.
So many contractors are Italian, at least around here.
And they can fit you for some good concrete overshoes as well.
I have one more thing I wanted to make sure I brought up. Or I have another thing I wanted to make sure I brought up. I didn't care for Omediclon's acting. Like, I felt like whenever he talked, he stood stock still, didn't move a fucking facial muscle, never changed, never like moved
how could
his
you
eyes.
tell under all that makeup?
Well, we've seen some actors who work well under the makeup.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
guy,
I don't think that
didn't
was
do a
bad acting.
thing.
I just think that was more of a choice.
Was it? It looked
I had to
terrible.
guess.
I
A
didn't like
shitty
it.
choice.
I gotta
Yeah,
admit, I didn't find it distracting, so I
Yeah,
didn't
I didn't
notice
even pick up
either
on
way.
it.
You didn't
I was
notice,
like,
Jake?
oh, he's
After every single scene, I was like, this fucking guy, god damn it. You didn't
I was
notice
just like,
what I
he's
was
a
cursing
Jem'Hadar. He
about?
doesn't have, he's all business.
They don't have personalities. They don't fuck.
We've seen
They don't
Jem'Hadar
have
with lots of
hobbies.
personality.
Yeah, Jadzia's
but-
buddy there was pretty.
Yeah.
I
Carl
like
was
that he
good.
was like, you don't look 300. You just admitted your own race never lives past 30. You fucking have no idea what 300
Well, they
looks
study
like.
other species, though.
Mostly Sisko.
Mm.
Just Sisko.
Maybe you don't get to be the first with any, having a personality.
Yeah.
We met Garanagar a couple weeks ago, and he was great.
Which one was Garanagar?
Garanagar was the one who doesn't need the white anymore.
So
Well,
he
he
doesn't
doesn't need
count
the
either
white.
because he's like the least Jem'Hadar
Oh.
that ever gemmed.
Boo.
I looked up his actor. What's his name? A Metaclon?
Yeah, Clarence Williams III.
Yeah, because I was like, they listed him special in the credits. I'm like, who is this guy? And it turns out he was in the Mod Squad, the
Yeah.
show, not the movie. And his photo on the IMDb is from back in the 70s, and he just has this amazing afro.
It is the fucking most incredible
so
afro I
good.
have ever seen.
Nice.
And the guy what gets his neck snapped is a recurring Trek background actor.
Oh, sweet.
He was actually in the original the Tullaberry Wine episode. He was the big alien that I think flung Quark out initially.
Oh.
Yeah, the big red dude with the spots and the weird
Yeah.
hat.
Yeah.
Neat.
He was one of them, and I think we have or will see him at some point, if we haven't already, as a Klingon.
Neat.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Jem'Hadar discipline, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you act up.
Yeah, makes the Klingons look weak.
Mm.
Metaclon's like, oh, you sent him to his room? You think that's discipline?
But I also am just like, no, but you murdered him, which means now you're down a guy. Now
Yeah.
you're down your best guy,
Yeah.
and we're about to go into battle. And it wasn't like, what he did was bad, I guess. He got into a fight with when he
Yeah, but
wasn't
Worf
supposed
is the
to.
one that punched him in the face. I mean...
No, the other guy started it, though. Didn't he?
He was trying to get O'Brien to go train, and Worf decided to punch him in the face.
He
Oh, yeah,
called.
yeah,
He
you're
called
right.
the ship. He said the ship should be hauling garbage. What did you expect to happen?
I did last night.
No, he said it should be hauled away as garbage.
I was trying to think of a Trouble with Triples joke when the fight broke out last night, and I just couldn't.
Man, somebody should do a recut of this episode, but instead of the when the fight happens, just go.
Well, Jake, we're counting on you.
There you go.
Speaking of O'Brien, there were
Yeah.
two O'Brien things this episode.
Yeah, I was
one
gonna
that
bring up
was
that.
cool, and one was that his usual bullshit.
Which is which? Tell us which is which.
Yeah,
So-
what was the usual bullshit?
The usual bullshit was when he was like openly mocking the Jem'Hadar's like rousing speech, like
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
alive and I plan to stay that way. I've got the luck of the Irish.
Tighty, tighty, tighty.
I thought that was great. I'm not gonna lie.
I liked it, but it's just more of his old racist shit, I feel like.
I don't know if I don't think you have to be racist to think that's a really fucked up speech.
If we're gonna be mad at Sisko for violating Worf's Klingon rights,
I wasn't mad at him for that, though.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not
I
mad at him for that
Ames is
either.
with me, maybe.
I'm with you, Caitlin.
Thanks, Ames. I just thought it was a little like, I don't know.
I think it was just to be the human counterpoint, because I'm sure that speech was
Oh,
really
demoralizing as fuck.
for the humans in the room. So
I was demoralized.
O'Brien
Shit.
had to bring in some levity.
Yeah, well, not great at it.
So what's
but
the other O'Brien thing?
the other O'Brien thing was I thought it was like kind of sweet when he brought his little like voice thumb drive to be uploaded for Keiko.
Oh, see, I was making jokes left and right about that.
I just
My-
thought it was sweet. I mean,
My joke is O'Brien's "I'm gonna get killed in this" letter to Keiko is mostly him cackling that he's free.
poor Keiko. That poor bitch. We give her so much shit on this show.
See, really, though, he should have had two. Because Julian had stayed behind.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean,
He probably sends
Oh,
his
you mean one for
directly.
Julian?
yeah, one for his wife, one for his boyfriend.
For the one for the love of his life, and one for his wife.
Hey.
So his actual message is just like, make sure Molly likes potatoes. Don't dishonor me, death. Don't feed her nothing but that kale shit. But I liked that also that like Jadzia was like, yeah, and I send one to my mom. I don't know. It was just kind of like it was like cheesy, right? It was cheesy, but I thought it was an interesting thing because I never really thought about it before. But like, of course, if they were going into a battle where they weren't sure if they were going to come back, like they have the tech. Of course they would do that. You know? I don't know. I thought it was sweet.
I mean, Tasha had her whole, like, Windows desktop, I'm dead message.
Mm. Yeah, I imagine
And
like you're supposed to just have like a messages like that pre-recorded as a Starfleet officer to begin with, but maybe like when you're going into battle, it's a good idea just to update it.
Yeah, O'Brien
Yeah.
likes keeping his as up to date as possible so that he can put in all the gripes against Keiko that happened that week.
His Festivus
Well, that's the thing. I mean, so with him, you know, he has a family.
area of grievances.
A family that he cares about. You know, you imagine someone who is like has fewer connections. Like Jim Kirk recorded his once when he was first promoted to captain and didn't update it for 20 years. You know, if you'd played his, he would have been the old gold shirt with the straight hair toupee instead of the curly one.
All I can think of now is Total Recall and if you're watching this movie, I died in the space battle. Keiko, I love you. Send my love to our children. I don't know.
Your Arnold gets better and better, Caitlin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a point of pride.
But yeah,
We
no, I
actually
don't know. I
watched-
like this episode. I like the intro of Wei-Yun, right?
Yeah, I'm sad we're never going to see him again.
Ames, I have a question for you.
Oh no.
Wei-Yun, kinda hot?
I don't know. I've never looked at him that way.
I was kinda into it.
Okay.
Jake, same question. Wei-Yun, kinda hot?
Oh yeah.
Maybe
oh yeah.
maybe not physically, but I could see the personality being sort of a turn on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You know, he's such a enigmatic kind of character because, yeah, he's part of the Dominion. He's clearly, you know, evil in some way, but he's got, you know, again, like that car salesman energy
Yeah.
that, you know, kind of makes him likable in a weird way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had entirely missed when he gets killed, then Ometicon is like, that's for not having trusted us that time.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
had to, like,
that's
go
for questioning our loyalty.
Go way back to be like, what is that a reference to? Oh, right, because you thought if they didn't know about the Iconian Gateway, they would continue to be loyal, so you didn't tell them, but they knew anyway. It was...
You think
It left for
Convoluted?
not a very big reaction to his death.
You think Jadzia told him?
No.
Yeah,
No, I just-
according to Sisko, loose lips sink ships.
No, I was making fun of the fact that
Worf found out from Dax.
Dax that Ometicon said he was going to kill Sisko.
Mm.
If he does succeed, he will not live long to boast about it.
It was definitely Rom. Rom was spreading secrets. Speaking of Rom, let's move on. Rom's not in this episode either. Let's talk... Segway! Did it! Success. Let's talk about the Quickening. Another fun romp.
I love Highlander.
I don't get the reference. So we start off the
I bet
Quickening.
Liz does. Liz is happy now.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead, Ames.
Good. I'm glad one person is happy.
Woo!
Chris. So we start off the Quickening with a very, very light tone when we hear Quark's new ad jingle for the bar.
Oh my god.
And it's so delightful.
Oh,
And
I
it's the
forgot that was
lightest-
this episode.
Yeah, it's the lightest thing we're going to get because the rest of this episode is so dark and
It really
depressing.
is.
Yep.
But at least we got that one moment of levity.
You.
Me? Oh, you're being Worf, I see. So yeah, after we have the light scene with Quark, Bashir, Dax, and Kira are out flying around doing the thing. They pick up a distress call from the Teplan system. So they go down and they find that all the people down there are assholes. They're also dying from blight, but they're mostly assholes. So I guess they have this blight, which is this big illness that they all have, that it's a permanent disease that will kill all of them, that the Jem'Hadar infected them with because they were mean to them one day or something.
I think they were like rejecting the founders' orders.
Oh yeah, they just resisted the Dominion.
Yeah. This is what you get when you resist. horrible disease that will slowly kill your people. Awesome.
Woo!
So we meet Trevian. Trevian? How is it pronounced? Trevian?
Yeah.
We meet Trevian, who's kind of their Dr. Kevorkian type, because they've all given up on ever curing the blight. They just decide death with dignity is better than anything else because we're just resigned ourselves to dying. So whenever Julian is there saying, I want to try to cure the thing, they're like, dude, don't bother, we don't care. Except for this one chick, Ikoria, who's a pregnant lady who maybe wants her child to live. That might be nice for her. So she decides to help Bashir with his research. The research starts going nowhere, and he gets a whole room full of people killed in a scene straight out of a fucking horror show.
Oh my god,
it was like, wow.
awful. It was
a
awful.
lot of stuff was happening, and it was a little bit overwhelming. Julian almost gives up. He almost goes back with Kira to go back to the station and say, well, I guess these people are fucked, never mind. But then I think he sees Ikoria's blight has quickened, which means, it's her face is basically outbreaking with veins and shit.
Well, they always have the lesions, but when they become inflamed,
when they turn,
that's
all
how
red.
you know they're quickening.
Yeah, they go from blue to red.
Yeah, effect was good.
Yeah.
So he decides, all right, I'm going to stay. I'm going to see if I can make any more progress, even if it's only me and Ikoria hanging out. At the very least, let's see if we can have her live long enough to have her baby. And then we get out of this the most boring birth scene I've ever seen. But the baby's out, and the baby is blight-free, because it turns out whatever the hell Julian was doing served as a vaccine for the baby. So now I really, really hope these people aren't anti-vaxxers, because this might help them in the future.
So,
Yeah.
when Julian was saying, like, you've got to get everyone to take the vaccine, I turned to Caitlin and said, for the love of God, don't invent Facebook.
Oh, no. Yeah, so this episode is left with Julian having a sad that he couldn't help the people, but at least TNG, the next generation, will be saved. And then we end with me singing Come to Quarks. Come to Quarks. Quarks is fun. Come right now. Don't walk, run.
Love it.
And did you guys also, did any of you do the Lion King thing when Trevelyan
when he was
holding
holding
up
up the baby? Yeah,
Absolutely.
that was great. Yeah, man, this is a heavy episode.
Yeah.
It's so good. I don't know. This is pretty good. Pretty up there for me.
So I actually didn't remember this one. And if I did, probably wouldn't have written a fanfic a couple of weeks ago where Julian doesn't have his equipment.
Yeah, but I don't know. But it was distinct.
Yeah.
It was a distinct story.
But I was watching it and I was like, oh, huh.
Yeah, I didn't draw a parallel at all. So
I didn't either.
I figure, like, what an incredibly vicious disease, because presumably it was designed so that exposure to sort of, like, modern tech would just make it worse.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because, like, they talk about how this society used to be a modern civilization.
as advanced as Starfleet.
We built vast cities and explored
Other
space
worlds
and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see all the structures that are around. Like, man, this must have been a really expensive episode to produce, because not only were there a shitload of extras,
Yeah.
There were also a lot of sets.
Yeah, I actually read that they lost a lot of time because since a lot of the sets were outside, it was raining a lot,
No.
which never happens in California, so I was kind of surprised. But it destroyed a lot of their sets, and they had to wait for the rain to stop to go rebuild the sets. So
Bummer.
that sucks.
Didn't that happen recently as well? Or, I feel like you were telling us about something similar that had happened, but maybe you were telling us about this?
I don't know.
Huh.
It's not an uncommon thing for
Yeah.
lots
I know
of
the,
drawbacks on set.
The original Star Wars actually had some of their sets in Tunisia destroyed. Because, it was their, like, once every decade massive rainstorm came through.
Oh, no.
And completely fucked their sets. And then the same thing happened on episode 1.
Nice.
Continuity.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it was really cool. I liked the world building that they did, and like the mural of that her husband had done.
So how big was this society? It must have been huge, because, I kept saying, like, how are there still so many people if almost all of them don't live long enough to have children.
Yeah.
Is the only thing you can assume. Like, how many of them can produce offspring?
Yeah.
Well, that's all I could think was, like, if all of them are dying so young, these babies are going to be fending for themselves when they're, like, 3.
Or, they've come up with systems, like a lot of, until fairly recently, childbirth for humans was, a pretty gruesome affair. And
it's still gross.
I mean, it's still gross, but I mean, nowadays we more or less expect that mothers will survive that process. But, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, coin flip maybe, right?
Yeah.
Especially when, like, people were having tens of babies.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, though. Greatest country in the world, our maternal mortality rate's going up.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just imagining that they've figured out systems to deal with
You're probably just raised by
the orphan
community.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, I guess I just meant if the community is only so big and half the people we've met have died. Just
Yeah.
like, let
Yeah.
there be
So, like,
people
what
left, that's all I
what
mean.
is the replacement rate of people on this planet?
Negative.
Yeah, I mean,
way negative.
Yeah, like if Julian hadn't come along, there is a chance that they would have been extinct within another century or so.
Yeah, you got to
Oh,
face. So
it's
it's been
10 years.
200. It's been 200 years since the Dominion,
Infected
devastated their planet. And if they were a society of billions, say, roughly the size of Earth's population today, maybe, so 7 or 8 billion. They could still be a few million left, even at a very low fertility rate.
Yeah.
But still, like, the amount of, like, carnage there must have been over the past 200 years is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. I mean, it's like, that just goes to show, I'm glad that it wasn't like some mystery disease. I'm glad that they established that, like, no, the Dominion did this.
Yeah.
This was a deliberate thing.
Yeah.
To show other systems, other planets, not to defy them.
Yeah, the scene with Bashir standing with all the bodies covered in tarps surrounding him is just, wow, rough.
But it also, like, that wasn't normal. That I don't think people normally die en masse like that. I'm guessing, they even say that.
Well, no, definitely he did that.
Yeah, it's because of his the EM fields from his instruments, like, expedited that process. And man, that was actually a really cool, if not terrifying, effect when, like, the thing that Dax had put on that dude's head, like, when he was quickening, I don't know if you guys noticed, but, like, the veins, like, grew out of it.
Ooh, sweet.
Oh shit! No, I missed that.
Oh yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was. I don't know if it was done with CG or what, but it
was
looked
done.
really cool.
This was one of the early uses of motion capture.
Wow.
So this was an early use where they had, the actors were around, like that guy Ipran, like, had the white dots on his face.
Huh.
And they filled it in later.
Wow.
That's wild.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool.
Good.
But man, what a way to go.
Yeah, that seemed awful.
I know, when Julian's trying to resuscitate him, I'm just like, please don't. Please
That's
stop,
what
Julian.
I was thinking. It's like, just let him
dead.
go. Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd also think that, like...
Yeah, what can you do if he comes back?
Watch
Give
him
him
die
more pain.
again.
I'm actually a little surprised that... like, maybe because medicine is so good in the Federation that you don't ever... It rarely comes to this, but I'm surprised that the idea of compassionate euthanasia isn't a thing that Julian is supportive of.
I said
We
the
saw
same
McCoy
thing.
do
I was
that.
like, it's the 24th. And that's what Chris said.
Hey!
Like, because, yeah, I don't know. I thought that it was really weird. I was like, dude, it's the 24th century. You're telling me there's no death with dignity yet in Starfleet or the Federation? Like, there must be, right?
Yeah. Here's the beautiful thing for Julian is that Julian, like, has never failed A, this hard, and B, possibly ever before. Because,
He failed with his Jem'Hadar friend.
I don't know if that was his failing or the Jem'Hadar's not letting him help or something. I think he feels like he could have done it. But, this is...
Well, didn't
this is-
O'Brien trash his shit?
Yeah.
Isn't that what actually happened?
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
O'Brien's fuck up.
Damn it,
No,
O'Brien.
like, it was though, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, he blew up his stuff.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have, I don't think he would have found the cure for the white addiction.
No, but now we can blame O'Brien instead of himself.
Exactly. That's what I do every day. But yeah, so we're seeing how it's an arrogance. It's the arrogance in Bashir thinking, I can cure the world. And
You can cure this
and
in a week. And
Dax had a
Jadzia,
great line. I loved it. The line is, it's arrogant to think that there isn't a cure just because you couldn't find it.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
she
it's like, I fucking love you. You're great.
she
Well,
spilled a lot of tea on him.
Well, it doesn't help that he did once pull this off. Like, it sounds like recently. Because there was
Oh,
that
yeah.
line where he was like, oh yeah, remember we were there, we found it in like 3 days, we cured everybody, we got medals, I got blown, it was great.
I got blown.
But yeah,
Yeah. I also think, though, that part of, this goes back to that sort of an original vision of Bashir is
Yeah.
like that, the frontier doctor,
Yeah, bright-eyed,
working
bushy-tailed.
in shitty conditions and researching diseases that no one's ever dealt with before. And I think, in his mind, he has this romanticized view of it where it's like, yeah, I am going to save these primitive people, it's this very colonial view of things. And
Yeah.
then the reality of it is,
He handed
Oh,
out
shit.
smallpox blankets. That's the reality.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of like, since they've been working on fixing his character, like, they've made him less of a sex pest, and now it's like, all right, let's let him really fuck up
Yeah.
in the
I like
medical
that.
A
side
little
of
humbling.
things.
Yeah.
But he does kind of get a redemption because he ends up actually finding the vaccine.
Yeah, but you can see that's not enough for him, because at the end
Yeah.
of the episode, he's still working on a proper cure.
Mm.
Which, makes sense not just for altruistic reasons, but also, hey, God knows that the Dominion might unleash a version of it on us someday.
Yeah, no
True.
shit.
Good point.
Yeah, I read that the working title of this episode was The Healing Touch, but they thought that they said we're going to change that because the implication is that Julian will heal them from that title. You think he's going to succeed if you heard that title, and you don't want to know that.
In a way, though, like, it would be kind of better, because at the end, he doesn't really, so it would work sort of as dramatic irony.
Yeah. 'Cause,
Yeah, but I also think, though, that even with this title, even with any title, as a viewer, I don't know. I've seen this episode before, so I knew what happened, but as first-time viewers, did you believe that he was going to fail in the end? Or did you think that he was probably going to succeed?
I think I literally said out loud something about like, oh yeah, he's not going to be able to do this and he's going to feel like a dick. I feel like I said something to show that I was not
Yeah, no, I
expecting
had
him to do it.
Yeah, he was just going in way too optimistic. I was like, oh yeah, no, this isn't gonna work.
Hmm.
A funny
Yeah.
thing I
Didn't
did,
know how much it was not going to work.
Yeah,
I never
no,
saw
did
him
not
like
expect.
killing a bunch of them.
No, that was wow.
Yeah, sadly,
It's-
I had been spoiled on this episode. That fanfic that Siddig and Robinson read together,
Oh,
it does spoil this episode.
Oh, that sucks. Did they? Oh, that sucks.
I
was gonna ask if they did a spoiler warning, but of course they didn't. This was 20 fucking years ago. But still, that's a bummer.
I did.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't bother me because still watching this episode, it's still riveting.
Yeah, and I had said towards the beginning when he was starting his test, I was like, man, you think he'd want like, someone who isn't pregnant as a control, because surely that's going to throw some sort of unexpected factor into this. And I was more right than I expected.
But right for the best reason.
Yeah.
I have to say that even though I was super outraged in the beginning about him being so, like, anti-death with dignity, I did sort of start to feel like Trevian was a little too gung-ho about killing people.
They're all really gung-ho about dying.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
what's her name even said, like, we've come to worship death. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Epran says to Julian when he comes in to be a test subject, he says, I canceled my death for you. I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though, right? Like, I think that the writers did a really good job of, creating or trying to imagine a realistic world where, horrible death was just, inevitable and could strike at
Exactly,
any
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
like, sure, humans and, presumably every other species, or except for maybe changelings, has a life cycle and eventually dies. So, everybody does kind of have to confront mortality in some sense. But these people, it's like you're
It's
born,
guaranteed.
Yeah.
you're guaranteed to die, and you're guaranteed to die soon.
And horribly.
And
Very
horribly.
horribly.
Yeah.
So
and
yeah, the idea that probably the best thing that can happen to you is to go to Trevian and get put down, just because it's very peaceful. You drink this tea and you're with your friends and family and everyone's happy and there's no pain.
Yeah. You get to take a nice bath, get some clean clothes.
Mm.
I mean, also
It
the
feels-
society itself is just so shitty too.
Yeah.
It's like horrible. It's the planet.
It reminded me a lot of the atolls in Waterworld. The way the society was. First of all, there wasn't a lot of water, but
Yeah.
like the level that they were brought down to.
Mm.
Shit, I had a fuck. Give me 2 seconds. I'm so sorry. I actually had a thought that wasn't just that. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. I wonder if it's like kind of like living in a country that's like particularly like affected by active war. Like something that we've really never known, but like if you live in an active military zone, it's probably somewhat similar if people are like if shit's getting bombed left and right and you never really know.
Like it just becomes like the background noise.
Yeah, or like I also was just thinking that like it's interesting that they like became really into the idea of dying, cuz like I was thinking about like how like after 9/11, right? Remember everyone was really scared for a while, but then eventually we were like, but we're going to keep on going, because in reality, like though it was horrible, like one terror attack when some countries are like constantly under terrorist attacks, I don't know. I guess it was an interesting take. So it's like they were still struggling on, but it didn't like, I don't know. It didn't seem to unite them. It just seemed to make them all pissed off and weird.
Yeah, like they could have easily just as a culture at some point been like, fuck it, why wait to quicken? Let's all just Jonestown this shit right now.
I'm
And-
sure there's
Whoa,
a lot
that
of them
wasn't what
did.
I was gonna say. Holy shit.
But
In the 200 years they've had this, there probably was a day where
Yeah.
just, this is just our death day. We're all gonna...
oh yeah, but what I mean is
Jump
like
ship.
they didn't get literally everyone to do it. Like there is
Yeah.
some sort of instinct to just be like, whether it's out of stubbornness or spite or whatever, it's like, fuck it, we're gonna keep going.
We have to uphold the website.
Yeah.
Was that Jonestown or the other group?
That was
That was the Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, that was Heaven's Gate.
Ah.
Jonestown was like the 70s. So websites.
Is that the one that was in Waco?
No, Waco
No, that's the
was
Branch Davidians.
Yeah.
Oh,
And they were
goddamn it.
killed by the FBI.
I never got that into
Cults a lot
cults.
in
They're
this
too hard
podcast.
to keep straight.
Oh, you know what I really liked was Bashir's story about his teddy bear,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
What was it? Kaka Rico
Kukalaka.
Kukalaka.
Does that mean anything? Did anybody look that up?
No, I looked
did.
it up and all I found was Bashir's teddy bear.
Oh, I have a story.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, there was a story because the writer, I want to say Ira Stephen Bear, but it could have been somebody else. Might have been Naren Shankar. They knew a friend of theirs, like a childhood friend of theirs, had a imaginary friend as a kid. And the writer of this episode remembered the name being Kukalaka. She's like, I'm gonna do my friend justice and I'm gonna name this teddy bear Kukalaka. And he shows the episode to his friend later and says, look what I did. And he's like, oh honey, Kukalaka wasn't my imaginary friend's name. Kukalaka was my ex-girlfriend's cat's name. And now I'm thinking about my ex-girlfriend, and now I'm sad.
Hmm.
Womp
Whoops.
womp. Oh, you meant well. What was the friend's teddy bear's name?
Imaginary friend's
friend.
name?
Imaginary friend.
I didn't see it transcribed somewhere.
That's too bad.
We should find out, because I'm sure it's delightful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't there a Doctor Who character, like on a one-off, whose name sort of sounds like that?
It is entirely possible and likely.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking
and almost certainly Bashir still sleeps with him in bed at night.
That's what I said, too. He was like, it's in
Yay.
a box, and he's like, it's on a shelf. I'm like, bullshit, you sleep with it. Don't lie. I thought that was cute.
Mm.
But I also felt like him going from stuffed animal to puppet must not have been that helpful to,
Yeah, no.
Like, she doesn't know what a puppet is.
Well, if you want to say stuffed animal, then you start thinking you have a taxidermied bear?
Sure.
Yeah, that's the
What?
thing. Like, I feel like a stuffed, like, I think it was smart. It was probably the closest thing that he could say, because anything else, like, stuffed animal is very, I feel like, culturally human.
Mm.
I feel like you could at least just say it's like a children's toy.
Like a doll. Like
Yeah.
it's an animal doll.
Yeah.
What's an animal?
Yeah.
What? Jesus.
They know what animals are.
Do they? We don't know that they may not even have animals on that planet.
They're
don't know.
animals.
Yeah, that's funny because the memory alpha entry for Kukulaka does just start with was a soft puppet like or something. Like they use his description.
A soft
Nice.
puppet.
It was refreshing, though, to see someone who didn't know every single thing about Earth culture and immediately
Yeah.
go, oh, yes,
Yeah.
a teddy bear, yes.
Yeah.
And actually, they did it a couple times. He used some,
But he just kept using a lot of medical terminology.
yeah,
That
like
Jadzia had to,
bedside manner. But there
Yeah.
was something else,
Oh, yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like he said that she was kind of like, what? And he was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Yeah, I forgot about bedside manner though. Yes, that's a.
But yeah, he had to, like, explain that to her.
I also feel like we should do a shout out to Dax, who I thought was pretty good in this episode.
Yeah.
And her hair was down.
Even though it wasn't a Dax episode, I think that she carried her water this week.
Yeah, they're finally like kind of figuring out what to do with her.
It's amazing how, because we were really critical not just of Dax as the character, but also of Terry Farrell as the actor. But it's amazing that when the writing improved,
Yeah.
miraculously, the acting also improved.
It's
There
almost
were a
like
couple lines into the death that I was like, oh, Terry, you're doing a line reading. Great.
Was this the one that Rene Auberginois directed?
Yes, it
Because
is.
LeVar did the
yeah,
first
LeVar Burton.
one,
We
right?
didn't mention he did the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was a Renee. This was the Renee show.
Hearing from, like, what Kira said about... what Nana Visitor said about him, like, after he had passed,
What did she say?
she kind of mentioned how he was the kind of actor that made her want to, like, up her own game to meet him,
Nice.
you know? And so I feel like if he's
The
already...
kind of actor who makes everyone around him better.
Yes. So
I like
I kind of feel like if that's kind of how he was, I could see him as a director being really incredible. Not that I'm saying that Terry Farrell wasn't doing the work, but what I mean is, like, maybe he's just the kind of director that she works better with because...
Yeah, I mean, it's you can tell like the best actors sometimes. If it's a bad director, you're not going to get the work out of them. I've said this before, but like just look at The Amazing Spider-Man. You look at that cast; it is a cast of award-winning actors, all kind of doing shitty work. And like when everyone is consistently having an off day, you can only say it's got to be the director.
And conversely, you can have a really terrible script that comes off well if the actors are good and the directors are good.
Yeah.
Like the show we worked on together many years ago.
Yes.
Cough,
yes.
cough.
Or even like, I don't know, you look at something like, I can't remember that movie, but it was one where like Kevin Hart and The Rock were old high school buddies and The Rock grows, I forget what it was, Central Intelligence. And it looked like such a generic story in a lot of ways, but like those two work so well together that it elevated a bland story into a much more successful film.
I think it's true that it works both ways.
Yeah.
And that good writing and good directing can elevate mediocre actors, and really good actors can elevate mediocre writing.
Well, it's also, I feel like if you've been given kind of crappy writing for years and they suddenly start writing well for you, you're gonna care more.
That's
Also-
probably also very true.
I think, we talked about the fact that she so often had to, like, they just kept giving her techno babble. And then
Well,
in
she's
this
a science
one,
officer.
yeah, but then in this one, she was the one who was like,
Being the human person.
Yeah.
Translating the
Actually, it's very
technobabble.
interesting. When you look at TOS, your science officer was Spock. So when
Yep.
he gives you technobabble, he's a Vulcan. When you look at TNG, your science officer, or I don't know if he's science officer specifically, but Data is usually the one giving technobabble, and he's a robot. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. When you have a person who's more, I mean, she's a Trill, but she has a human way of speaking.
Yes.
She's a person thing. She's not she's not a computer in flesh. She also has to
two
be able
logic
to
machines.
act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not just a logic machine.
Yeah.
Like when we get to Voyager, who's the science officer there? It's not Tuvok, is it?
No, he's security.
Okay. I forget
I don't
who's
think
science.
they really
that's
have a
interesting.
dedicated
Vulcan
science.
security officer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
Tuvok is
man,
fun.
I'm excited
Yeah.
about that. I didn't realize that
But
was
yeah.
his role.
That's the thing. Like
Voyager, though, of all the Star Trek series, gets criticized the most
For the
its
technobabble,
overuse
yeah.
of technobabble.
Oh, rats.
Yeah,
So
probably.
we'll
Sure, it has nothing to do with the fact that it was the first female captain.
I think honestly, if anything, most of the technobabble probably ends up having to fall to Kim because he's ops, which in TNG at least, where they didn't have a dedicated science officer, ops became de facto science station.
Mm.
And probably a lot falls on Torres being the chief engineer, but we'll see.
Mm.
Yeah, I like Torres, though. We'll see. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll definitely see.
I will say that cast got very good at delivering it. Must have driven them fucking daffy, though.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, the other thing, speaking of just acting and such, the thing you pointed out, Caitlin, was during the birth scene.
Oh my
Julian.
god.
Ikoria.
When Julian pulled out the baby, pulled out. That's not exactly what happened.
That's how it
That's
goes.
not- he just grabbed
I mean,
on
she
and
was-
yanked.
She
No,
was
but-
basically dead, so probably, yeah.
He made this face. Thank you for reminding me because I totally forgot. Julian makes this fucking face and he holds it. It is this face of like just being actually blown away by the miracle, not only of birth,
Oh,
but of a
wow.
blightless baby. His mouth is just, go look at it. Ooh, excuse me.
Yeah,
Go
it's
look
funny
at it
'cause-
again
Yeah,
because
during that scene, I was watching her because she was dying.
this was
Yeah.
some
And
of
that's
the
where
like
my eye went.
this was some of the greatest Julian acting I've ever seen because
Oh,
he
word.
really, in my opinion, got across just like being completely like blown away by, again, like just the birth, but also the fact that he had succeeded. It's like a shock, but like also, I don't know. He just does it so well, and I was super impressed. And
Yeah,
he
like-
held it, he like sustained it for a while.
Yeah, no, he's like, it's very clear that there's a lot of emotions happening at once.
It was really well done. It was like 3 seconds, but I literally was just like, holy shit, look at his face. Oh my god. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
There was something about the birth scene up until baby was out that I was very nonplussed by, and I was trying to figure out why. And I think, it was just a very bland birth scene. It was push, push, like 5 times in a row.
Mm.
And I realized later, like what I think might have benefited, because she is actively dying.
Yeah.
yeah.
She does not have the energy to push this child out. And I felt like it needed something to remind you of that, something for Julian to say, like, if this is the last thing you ever do, you have to push. She's like, I can't, I'm too weak. But you have to to take every last ounce of energy you have and make this be your life's work. And I don't know, something to make it dynamic. But yeah, I guess when the baby's out, then Julian, yeah, I'm glad he's a person about it.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was really, really good Bashir acting. But yeah, I see what you mean. Plus, it just felt like it was the same shot the whole time, too.
Mm.
Maybe.
Like, it was almost like her POV of him just standing over being like, push!
And I felt like the
Push!
angle was weird. I felt like she was sitting like
Yeah,
straight up.
That's what's something that I noticed. That like
That would definitely make the job a
I've
little
never
harder.
seen a birth other than on TV, but I don't think it's common to be sitting straight up.
Being fair, we don't know what their downstairs looks like. They
That's
are
true.
aliens.
Actually, though, I feel like
Hey, Chubbs.
you don't usually see 90 degrees, but I think usually the bed is lifted a little.
Yeah,
right?
I think you have to be at like a 45 or 30-degree angle or something.
And I feel like I've seen a lot of like kind of sitting up and bracing on the arms, maybe while birthing.
Maybe, I don't know.
But I mean,
Maybe
like
we
we're
see the
designed,
angles, so.
we're designed to squat and drop. So like any way you're doing it that isn't that, it's not really right. But I feel like there's usually an angle. I feel like, and again, this is like television style, but I feel like you do typically see kind of like a propping up on the arms and being like, "Rrrr!" I don't know. That's
Yeah.
my
I think also
impression of
maybe
giving
because
birth.
it was just so close up on
Yeah.
her face as opposed to being a slightly wider shot. Maybe, I don't know.
But yeah, like I said, we can just go with they're aliens. We know what's going on.
We
there.
don't know what's going on.
Yeah, she's got like a tail that does all the pushing for her.
Ugh.
Gross.
Neat.
Well, I've already explained. He just
Yeah.
pulled the baby out. He suction cupped its little head and yanked it out.
I'm also kind of glad for the design of these aliens. They just look human. There's no funny nose.
Oh, it
there's
would have
no
distracted from the
head
lesions.
ridge. Yeah, exactly. So they just look like humans that happen to have these these sores all over them.
Well, that's the thing too. Is when you first see them, you're like, okay, so this is their alien thing, and they're like, oh no, this is a horrible disease.
Yeah, no, this is a top episode for me, I think.
Nice. By the end, we come back to Deep Space Nine, and the first thing I think is, we have to see the Quark ad again. And then it gets really sad, and Julian's all, doing his sad, research thing. I'm like, but I wanted to... But now the tone won't make sense,
Nope.
but I want to see the Quark ad. God damn it!
Yeah, that probably was the best, Let's open with this, because shit's about to go to fuck.
Go to
Yeah.
shit.
I
No, I
read
thought
that
it
they
was
actually...
okay,
Say again?
I just said I thought it was okay.
No,
Tonally.
that's what I mean. I am agreeing. Like,
Oh, okay.
it was a good episode to use it in, because, like, it's like, oh, what a nice moment of levity.
Yeah.
Now get ready for 43 minutes of sad.
It was a spoonful of sugar.
Yeah, I read that they actually did write a full commercial for Quark's Bar,
Oh my god.
but it was way too long for that teaser scene. So they just said, no, let's just do a silly jingle. So they wrote the little silly jingle in like 5 seconds. And then Armin Shimmerman came up with the tune.
Nice.
Did he really? That's awesome. I didn't like the way he said advertisement.
What did he say?
How
I
did he
didn't
say
notice.
it?
Advertisement.
Oh.
It's just a little advertisement. I was like, stop.
Put the emphasis on the wrong syllable or whatever that
It's like how my
expression
mother
is.
says SpongeBob. Always SpongeBob. I'm like, Mom.
As opposed to a different Bob.
I think the end, well, not the end shot, but like the sort of end shot on the planet was a really nice,
The Lion King moment?
moment, because what it is like, it's, what's his name again?
Trevian.
Trevian.
Trivian?
Trevian in the middle with the baby, and everyone's sort of, and Julian has left himself off to the side.
Oh, that's nice.
It's like, when you think about it, it's something that he has done, but by keeping himself separated from the moment, he's kind of not taking the credit in a way.
Yeah, well, he's not
He's letting it be a moment for these people.
Right, he's
and
not making it about him.
Yeah, like, you're welcome! Like, Trevian, who's already been a big central figure for this culture, gets to be the one to show off the healthy baby. I think
Yeah, I
that's
guess Renee Auberjonois was trying to, like, channel a lot of the kind of scenes that you would see in, like, religious-y Renaissance paintings. Like, there were a whole bunch of times where he would show Ikoria basically in poses of the Virgin Mary.
Oh, clever.
I
And-
didn't notice that. Renee
and turn
Auberjonois.
Julian into a Jesus healing the lepers type.
Yeah, definitely got a leprosy vibe from it a little at
Oh,
first.
for sure. Well, and if they had called it the healing touch, you wouldn't have been able to not see
that's
Jesus.
true. That's true.
Well, you
Julian
know,
starts
though,
with J. Jesus starts
Oh
with
my
J.
god!
you know though that if you came back to this planet in like 50 or 100 years, there would be shrines to Julian Bashir, and he would be a deity.
Maybe, yeah.
The one that came and cured the blight.
Yeah, you do kind of wonder, but he does seem to be trying to de-emphasize that aspect at the end by keeping himself so very, like, like everyone's around Tree. He's completely alone in this half-rubble house, just kind of looking.
Where
I
does
hope-
this stand in terms of Prime Directive, do we think?
Oh, I figured it was really fucking the Prime Directive hard.
They sent out a distress signal.
No,
they
that's
asked
true.
them to come.
If we go by what seems to that's the problem again, is like, it depends upon what version of the Prime Directive we're talking about. If we're talking
Actually, the distress signal was sent 200 years ago, and none of these people remembered it. So maybe.
Well, but if we're talking about, like, because the line eventually just seems to be, did you invent warp? Then we're fine. They said they visited other worlds. And they'd already been exposed to the larger universe by the Dominion, so.
Yeah, but again, I don't know. I feel like there's no defined leader in this society either, so there's nobody that can be
That
like,
we meet at least.
fuck off. And they're certainly not asking permission to help.
No, that's true.
probably the closest thing they have, or the closest thing that we see to someone with a leadership position is Trevian, and he definitely is in the fuck off camp.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it's
Julian
a bit.
was gonna fuck off until Ikoria specifically said, "I want your help."
Yeah, true.
And Julian can't resist a pretty lady.
So how much masturbating did Kira do waiting in a nebula in the runabout for a week?
So much.
Like, how funky did it smell in there when they beamed up?
Yikes. Jesus. I'm sure her lady bits are pristine, you pig.
I'm just saying, I don't know. No, it's more just the smell of body, right? It's a
She's
sweaty
a Bajoran.
business.
They smell different.
There's a shower.
There's no shower? Like, Worf lives on there. There's gotta be
No,
No,
he
this
lives on
is
the
a
Defiant.
No, that wasn't the
they're
Defiant.
on
This
a
was a
round.
runabout.
Oh, you're right. They're on a runabout.
But runabouts are pretty big, and don't we?
Yeah, there probably is like a sonic shower,
Yeah,
I guess.
'cause there's
Or she
even
at
like.
least did a PTA, you know?
Yeah.
Can she beam the filth off of her into space?
I also
Sure.
wondered that.
But yeah, like
But man, just like go hang out in a nebula for a week. Like what?
Probably
That's
just
terrible.
did lots of reading or worked
Well, that's the
on
thing,
her
like,
pottery or something.
imagine some of the weird, like, long-term stakeout bullshit she did as a terrorist. Like, this was probably nothing.
Yeah, plus I bet you the Bajorans have, like, a week of solitude in their celebration systems.
I'll just do an early solitude festival.
Like, she just sat around in her underwear watching Netflix. She was fine.
She caught up on all of TNG.
Yeah.
She's like, that's where I saw the Iconian Gateway before.
Oh, that's where I saw this back of the runabout that never actually gets used in DS9.
No, actually, she watches Galaxy Quest, and she's like, those poor people. God, can we watch that for the show again?
Yes.
Can we just do a 10 forward on Galaxy Quest, like, once a year?
Yeah, I mean, the runabouts are so much bigger than we give them credit for, and they've got, they've got little bunks. I'm sure they've got a bathroom.
You're right, there's definitely bunks.
You know what she did?
She was in every one of those bunks, just so we're clear.
She sat there and finally caught up on that poet who suddenly has a bunch of new poetry because he didn't die when he originally died.
Yeah, what's his ass? He thought he was the what's-it.
That or she just sexted Shakar the whole time.
Accidentally sends one to Odo. Odo's at home crying. Only the tears are just goo.
That then just get reabsorbed into his shirt.
Face or his shirt. Yeah.
The face is better.
All right, well.
Yeah, this is a good show.
It was,
I
yeah.
this
I
one.
think both of them was a nice little combo of things.
Yeah, this is a really great season.
The
Season 4 is a good
Dominion,
one.
reminding us the Dominion is out there still doing shit.
Yeah,
it's kind of been a bit.
This is the first we've seen of Vorta in a long time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When did we see Vorta before?
The Jem'Hadar.
Oh, I forgot all about them.
There was that lady Vorta.
We saw them in
the one that tricked them.
Yeah, that one too. Who was supposed to be the same lady, but they couldn't get her back, I think Ames had said.
Yeah.
Is that who I'm thinking of, though? The person that, tricked them in the first place?
Yep,
okay,
yep.
I forgot that she was Vorta.
Yep.
Well, I forgot she existed entirely. I mean, I can only remember about 6 episodes at a time, so...
I know that, we'll see more of them. Well, one day we're going to see Iggy Pop as a Vorta.
Well, you're going to have to
true.
remember more than 6 episodes for next week, Caitlin, because next week...
No, I need to remember exactly 6, Ames. My top and
Oh,
bottom.
that's fair. Hey!
And I wasn't thinking that when I said it either. It was just a happy coincidence.
Well, what are we doing next week?
Why are you asking me?
Shake us out, Caitlin.
I know, just kidding. All right. Well, Chris, I'm so glad you asked. Next week, it's the season 4 finale, which I can't fucking believe it. So that means we are officially down to just 3 more seasons of Deep Space Nine, which gives me a sad.
That is crazy.
This is my favorite Star Trek. I feel like I say that every time we
solid.
watch a new Star Trek, but this is of the 5 or 6 Star Treks I've seen. Because what have we got? TOS, TAS. I've seen TNG. I've seen Picard and I've seen Discovery, and now I've seen Deep Space Nine. So yeah, of the 6 I've seen, this is my fave.
Well, you haven't seen Lower Decks yet, Caitlin.
Well, I won't until I have to for this show.
That won't be your favorite.
I guess it will
predict.
not. No, I would guess. But Galaxy Quest, 7 Star Treks.
Hey!
So next week we'll be talking about the last 2 eps in the old seas, body parts, and Broken Link. Body parts just makes me think there's going to be pieces of people flying all over the ship. Sorry, station.
Broken Link is the next Legend of Zelda game.
Broken Link to the past. So yeah, if you
the Broken Link.
If you liked this
Goodbye.
and you want to hear more, you crazy bastard, we will be back next week talking about those episodes. You'll also get the bonus, which is our top and bottom 3 of the season. But yeah, I mean, if you want to make sure you're up to date on what we're up to and you never miss an episode, you should subscribe to hear more. We are on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find us online at Facebook. You can search A Star to Steer Her By and you'll find us. We are also on Twitter and Tumblr at SSHB Podcast. You can go to sshbpodcast.com to check out our website, which may or may not, depending on when you're hearing this and how motivated Jake has felt, be either a real website or a link to our Tumblr page. Only time will tell. But thank you, as always, for joining us. I have been Caitlin.
I have been Jake.
This has been Chris.
And this is always Ames. Come to Quarks. Quarks is fun. Come right now.
Don't walk, run!
Don't walk,
Yeah.
run. Yeah, there you go.
Woo!
I love it. So good.
Rule of Acquisition 286. Come to Quarks. You'll have fun.